Hi, and welcome to the month of November. Our topic for this month is responsible investing. Make versus take. I'm Colleen Derrick, and I'm a financial advisor with Swaggers Insurance. We've been doing 4-week mini courses each month this year, and the responsible investing one is maybe going to have a little bit of a different feel than the past months, perhaps a little more technical. I would like to really make sure that you have an understanding of what responsible investing really means and how it's structured, and then how that's applied and flowed out to you, the individual investor. We're going to keep to our 4-week pattern. And we want to open up with sort of, again, this overriding idea of what is responsible investing and what does it mean to you? Because you might be an oil and gas person. Not a problem. You're like, well, no, I'm sorry, responsible investing doesn't mean me. Why not? Perhaps certain aspects of it are not going to be a fit for you. Perhaps you're a farmer and you say, well, how does that apply to my world? We're going to take a look at that and see how responsible investing is this broad umbrella that covers a whole bunch of micro focuses. The 17 Sustainable Development Goals are the global goals and icons that the group have agreed upon, which I'm sure you can just imagine was tremendously challenging. To get people to agree on anything is tough. And these are global goals with actionable points and target dates. Wow, right? So it's impressive that people actually got together and came up with these. Do you know what they are? Probably not, because they haven't really gained a lot of traction in mainstream individuals' lives. But the first one is no poverty. The second is zero hunger. Third, good health and well-being. 4 is quality education. 5 is gender equality. 6, clean water and sanitization. 7 is affordable and clean energy. 8 is decent work and economic growth. 9 is innovation, industry, and infrastructure. 10, we're then looking at reducing inequalities. 11, sustainable cities and communities. 12 is responsible consumption and production. 13 is climate action. And look at that, number 13. And yet when I said responsible investing, I'd be curious to know what was the first image or the first word or the first sort of thought or category that popped into your mind. Because in my experience, a lot of people go right to climate action. And yet you can see that climate action is number 13 on our list here after a lot of these other things, which when I'm talking to individuals, a lot of us share a passion for, people having food to eat, not living in squalor, being healthy and well mentally, emotionally, and physically, having good education. We come down to 13 and we have climate action. We live on the world and it matters. But again, can we maybe bring things into balance and take a look at what responsible investing as a whole, as opposed to just saying, hey, it's anti-oil and gas. And this is where I think that there's an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to ponder and to explore and to discover perhaps a broader scope to responsible and values-based investing than maybe what we had typically characterized it as covering. Number 14 is life below water, and life on land is 15. Peace, justice, and strong institutions. And number 17 is partnership for the goals, because we do need partnership. These are not going to be accomplished by isolated groups of people. It is a collective effort that is going to tackle these on a global scale. Do they matter? Well, I would say that since we live here together, yeah, I would say all of these probably matter, but do they matter to you as more than a passing thought? And that's a question only you can answer. We're going to take a look at the three different approaches that responsible investing management teams tend to utilize. So the first one is negative screening. This approach rejects any company that manages itself or engages in a business, sector, or geographic area that you don't want to support. So that's pretty basic, right? It just says, hey, I don't agree with this. I'm not going to invest in that. I'm going to put my investment dollars into something I actually agree with. Now, that may seem very basic and have a lot of common sense to it, and yet so many people don't even know the companies they're investing in. They wouldn't even know what they do, let alone what sector they are or geographically where they're located, what the business partners they have. It's a lot of information. And yet, if you're really opposed to something, do you really want to be investing in a company that is profiting from and fostering, again, something you don't agree with? Well, it just makes sense, doesn't it? And so fund management teams use this negative screening, common sense. Hey, we don't agree with this. We don't think this is productive or helpful or good. We're not going to invest with it. We're going to just say there's a whole bunch of other companies we can invest in out there. We're going to exclude these ones. Okay. Number two is not just the negative screening, but going into actually a positive screening and saying, hey, this approach integrates companies that manage or engage in systems, sectors, and endeavors you wish to support. So we're doing positive screening. So if I like that a company is trying to reduce the amount of paper they use, I would say, hey, that's positive screening. I'm like, good for you. Thanks for doing something that I agree with. I think it's important that we use less paper where possible because we like trees. We know that they're good for their environment. I personally think they're very pretty and like to hug them. And they've got pretty green leaves. They're houses for animals. I am a pro-tree person. So if a company says, hey, we're going to try and help protect trees by using less paper, I'm going to, as a positive screening method, say, let's look at investing in you. If your competitor is not doing that, and I'm not investing in them, that would be a negative screening. But if I am investing in you because you're taking this action and initiative, that's positive screening. Again, seems pretty common sense, right? So what if you don't agree with the positive screenings of a fund manager? No problem. Don't invest in their fund. Or say, well, their positive screenings maybe not for me, but I like all this other stuff they're doing. So their positive screening isn't harming me in any way, shape, or form. So maybe I can benefit from the other things they're doing in this fund and just not worry about a positive screening method that I'm not really on board with, but I'm not opposed to. Things to think about. Options. And I think if our takeaway at the end of this month is anything, I would like you to be aware and informed that you have choices. Canada is maybe a little behind the US on this, a lot behind the US on this, but our choices are here and they're broadening and you have access to them. So number three is impact investing. Now, impacting investing says, hey, here are your common sense negative screening, positive screening, but we are going to go one further. We're going to get excited and passionate and pursue companies which are actively pursuing creating opportunities or changes that we wish to help further and encourage. We love this growth. We love this creation. We love these innovative ideas. We love this direction you're taking. So we're going to champion those companies and we're going to get behind them and provide funding and financing through investment to support their initiatives. And that is impact investing. So negative screening, positive screening, and impact investing. That's not so bad, right? Welcome to responsible investing. So my perspective on this is make value or take value. So there are 17 sustainable development goals and 169 targets. These are all important, but some will be more relevant to you or elicit more passion. The question I like to ask when looking for investments to recommend is, so you say, well, Colleen, you recommended this fund. How did you get there? Sometimes it's just pragmatic. It's the best I've got with what we're looking at to try and get you to, again, where you're wanting to go in a way that's reasonable. Because You know me, I'm all about goals-based investing, not returns-based investing. A return is just a return, but your life and your journey, that's what really matters. So I like to ask, is this fund manager focusing on companies who make value or take value? And I don't always get a great answer on that. And again, we have to work with what we have. But where there's an opportunity and an option to work with a fund manager who loves to deal with companies that make value, man, that's it. And I do try to avoid the ones that are just taking value. I find it interesting that the US Congress is asking companies to answer, will our product or service add value to society? Social media is bringing some of these questions into a greater focus. This is new. We haven't seen a lot of this before. But when they're saying to social media, when they're saying to Facebook, to Instagram, to Snapchat, to these platforms, they're saying, you're harming. We think you're harming people. We don't think that's good. What are your thoughts on that? Do you feel you're creating value? Do you feel you're benefiting people? I love that the US Congress is asking this because many of us are asking this, and the ones that aren't, it's probably not because you don't care. It's probably just because you're so focused about going about your life, making things work for your family and your community, that you haven't stopped to really take an assessment on the investment piece of this. So let's do that this month. Number one, engage. Thematic investing. Fund managers can choose to focus on companies which celebrate a certain theme. So whether that's human thriving or sustainable resources, responsible energy, a fund focuses its resources on companies meeting these needs or helping to reduce negative impact in its chosen theme. How great. Here's the theme for this fund. You know what they're for. You know what the fund management team is looking for. You know what decision-making parameters they're putting in place. You can easily decide if that resonates with you and if you're interested in participating in it with your money and participating in the profits that it's generating. Engagement number two, fund managers can build an ESG, that's environment, social, and governance, and sustainable development goals into their selection process, right? So they can say, okay, we know these sustainable development goals. We know the risks of environment. We know the risks of social risk. We know the risk of governance risk. We can build this in to our selection process. We can be mindful of these. We can have a team that keeps an eye towards these and not just analyzes the fiscal viability of the profits of a company, but also how are they functioning in these areas? So stewardship, company culture and processes, actionable targets. They say they're doing good. Is there any way to judge that? So using science-based targets, it's important. Shareholder communications. How are they voting with the shares that they hold? And investments, what are they investing their assets in? So these are all factors to be reviewed. So science-based targets help fund managers and companies alike assess their progress and impact. Now, you don't necessarily have to like the science-based targets. You don't have to necessarily be on board with them, but we can recognize that here's a group of people have agreed, assessed and said, hey, we want to stop just having lip service and greenwashing. We want to know that there's actual substance behind what you're saying. And the science-based targets are trying to help us analyze that. And if that's not a fit for you, that's okay. Not everybody's using them. But for the ones that are saying, hey, we are good here and here's our measurable output, that has value. That has value, right? It lends integrity to their words. Engagement number three, shareholder engagement is about communication and collaboration. So fund managers are investing in companies, which brings responsibility with ownership. So using their rights to vote and ask questions at shareholder meetings, to file shareholder resolutions in ways which reflect the fund about the values of the fund objectives, right, allows for greater impact, which reflects investors' intentions and values. So basically, you're investing in this fund. The fund manager is choosing the companies to invest in. When they do that, they have the right to ask questions. They have the right to attend meetings and get information. They have the right to give feedback, and they have the right to initiate change. That's a fair bit of power and impact that they have on these companies that your money is supporting. How are they using it? So some fund managers have been very proactive about this and said, this is a powerful responsibility. We are going to leverage it to support and further the objectives, the values, the priorities of the fund that we're managing, because that's what our investors say is important to them, and we want to reflect that in our action. So you get to choose. You get to choose what's right for you. Just because you love trees or not, you don't have to love my trees with me. It's okay. But it doesn't mean that all ESG funds are right for you or wrong for you. You may not know exactly what you want to support, but you know for sure what you don't like. I know some of you, we've had this conversation. Or you may like the concept, but not have the patience or the time or the interest to flesh out the specifics. The good news is, again, you have choices and you have people that are willing to do this work on your behalf. Lukewarm folk, you just want to know your investments aren't harming people or the world directly. No problem. A fund which incorporates ESG processes may suit you. It means, again, there's some people that are really looking into this, managing and doing that all for you, and says, hey, here's the result. Let's make some profit, but hopefully from companies that aren't destroying people in the world. If you're on board and you're like, yes, I like this responsible investing sort of thing. You're worried about the impact certain industries or processes have on people and the world, or how they may impact your investments. You're like, well, I guess I care about the world, but honestly, I just don't want to lose money because of it. Hey, not a problem. A managed sustainable fund could be a fit for you. A little more actionable, a little more embedded and aware of the risks that they're posing, as opposed to this proactionary that if you're passionate, you know what you care about and you want to actively support certain businesses. So a thematic fund may reflect your heart and may be a great opportunity for you. Now, again, we have to work with the collection we have in Canada, but we do have lots of choice and options available. Start the conversation with me. Start the conversation with whoever your advisor may be. If it's not me, see what's out there. But the conversation, I think, needs to start at home. So once you say, thanks for the video, Colleen, take a few moments to think about it and maybe discuss with your family or your friends or your business. What do we not support? What do we support? And what are we really excited about? Next week, we're going to go and take a look at governance risk. So I hope you'll meet me next week, Tuesday, for week number 2 of the 4-week mini course.